So we're MSNBC, the place for politics, right? Most corporate slogans I know are just slogans. They don't have all that much to do with how you do your job every day. But that whole place for politics thing is totally for real around here. Case in point, I have already been studying my Decision 2009 preparatory memos and statistics in order to get geared up for our election night coverage here on Tuesday. Decision 2009. I know, it's not even a midterm election. It's an off-year election, and there's only a handful of races. But we're doing election coverage. I'm really excited about it. And even though it's only a handful of races, they are very exciting races. There are mayor's races in a bunch of big cities, including New York. There's a special congressional election in Northern California. There's that crazy special election up by Fort Drum in northern New York State, where Republicans like Fred Thompson and Sarah Palin from all around the country are bigfooting the local Republicans, telling them they don't like the local candidate the local Republicans picked to run in that local race. There are governor's elections in New Jersey and in Virginia, and in the great state of Maine, there is a ballot initiative that will have all eyes upon it on Tuesday night. It's Maine's Question 1, and it asks Maine voters if they want to repeal their state's brand new law allowing same-sex marriage. Earlier this year, Maine's state legislature passed and the governor signed same-sex marriage rights into law. But before the law even went into effect, opponents put together the petitions necessary to force a referendum on the issue. Like Proposition 8 in California this past November, Question 1 in Maine would ask voters to take away a civil right that's already on the books. Ballot measures about same-sex marriage have a worse track record than this year's St. Louis Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tennessee Titans all rolled into one. Same-sex marriage ballot measures are 0 for 30 right now. The question is, could Maine break that losing streak? The polls say it's anyone's guess. A Daily Kos Research 2000 poll out today shows the No on One campaign is ahead of Yes on One, by which I mean that people who are in favor of same-sex marriage rights are ahead of those opposed, but they're only ahead by 1 point, one well within the margin of error point. The last round of polling we reported said the same. It was also a tie. Whichever way the vote turns out, it will be a big deal for gay rights as an issue nationwide. Many of the same players from both sides of California's Prop 8 battle have resurfaced in Maine this year to join the Question 1 fight. And Tuesday's vote will be the first true test of whether the gay rights movement has recovered and rebounded from last year's defeat with Prop 8 in California. But more than a Prop 8 rematch, the gay marriage battle over Proposition 1 in Maine is about the state of Maine itself. If the No on One forces prevail, if gay marriage rights are not revoked, Maine will become the first state in the country to have gay marriage rights upheld by the voters. Maine's struggle with the issue is perhaps most dramatically personified by the man who's become the unlikely top advocate for the No on One forces, for the fight to keep same-sex marriage rights intact in Maine. He's a man who just a couple of years ago was openly on the record against gay marriage. He is Maine's moderate Democratic Governor John Baldacci. Mr. Baldacci made it clear during his re-election campaign in 2006 that he supported domestic partnership rights, but not gay marriage. In fact, he said at the time, quote, "I don't support changing Maine statutes to recognize same-sex marriage. That isn't a fight that Maine needs now." Governor Baldacci then had a change of heart.
I have come to believe that this is a question of fairness and of equal protection under the law, and that a civil union is not equal to a civil marriage.
That was in May, right after the governor signed Maine's gay marriage bill, which had been passed by the legislature. This week, he's out campaigning against Question 1, urging voters to uphold that law that he signed. On Tuesday, he appeared at a Get Out the Vote event with gay marriage advocates and families, and he told them, quote, "We are all unique people. We are all different, but we are all under the same Constitution, and we all want to make sure there is equal protection for all citizens." Joining us now is Maine Governor John Baldacci. Governor Baldacci, thank you very much for coming on the show. I know you're a very busy man.
Well, you're very welcome. It's good to be with you, Rachel.
You didn't just change your mind on this issue. You started fighting in earnest for something that you were opposed to not that long ago. Personally, what caused this change for you on the issue of gay marriage?
Well, it was an issue where you realized that civil unions were not equal to a civil marriage, and my responsibilities are under the Constitution to represent all people, not one particular faith or another, And it's important that we are there for people who are being discriminated against or could be discriminated against. Our state came into the Union as a free state, and I think it's something in our air and our water which we continue to strive to weed out and stand up against discrimination of any kind, because we know that it could be us next. And I'm very proud of Maine and the way that it stood up, the way that people have campaigned and recognized the inequality. I mean, Rachel, there were farm families from northern Maine, a very rural part, that talked very personally about what their son or daughters were going through and what their family members were going through, and that we needed to keep this law because it was important to their families. And this is the same story that's being told throughout the state of Maine. So, you know, I'm just very proud to be governor of a state of people like our state of Maine.
I know that you're in your second term as governor, Governor Baldacci, and I know that you won't be running again for governor. Correct me if I'm wrong. But in terms of thinking about the political consequences of this change of heart for you, do you think that if you were running again, this would help you or hurt you with the voters of Maine? I know that other politicians are watching your experience, thinking about their own stances on this issue.
Well, Rachel, I was a member of Congress when we were voting on the Iraq War resolution. And it was very difficult because it was just at the same time that we were running for election. But that wasn't right, and it wasn't being done for the right reasons, and I voted against it. It was a very difficult vote. I think the quote is that when history shines on you, you're sure to make sure you're advancing the cause of others and not letting their causes slip backwards. When this presented itself to me, it was difficult. It wasn't something that I was used to, but I promised people I'd keep an open mind, I'd look into the issue, and I'd be able to determine if it, in fact, was something that we needed to do for our state and for our citizens. And when I began to look at the issue and I saw that under state law we were granting rights for marriages, and that we were going to be creating a second-class marriage statute if we allowed just civil unions, and we wouldn't be upholding to our Constitution of equal protection, that there was only one course for me to take in telling people that civil unions don't equal civil marriage, separate and apart from the church, and the church is free to continue to do their marriages and blessings as they see fit, and this law reinforces that strong separation of church and state, and it's something that we have to be very vigilant about. But at the same time, we need to recognize that we are all unique, we are all different from each other, but we're all governed by the same Constitution, and it's my responsibility. I'm passionate about that because I think our state is passionate about the rights of others and about standing up against discrimination.
Governor, how confident are you about how this ballot measure is going to go on Tuesday? And if the law is overturned, if the yes on one forces win, is there a plan B for same-sex marriage rights in Maine?
I think, Rachel, it's a very good question, but when I visited the campaign office, there were over 8,000 volunteers, Rachel, and almost all of them are from the state of Maine. They're from families in the state of Maine. They're college students. They're older people, retired people, working people that are working on this, and they're working day and night in that campaign offices throughout the state. I was talking with Jesse Conley, and he was telling me about how driven and motivated they are and about the early voting that's already taken place. And, you know, we're giving it 100% effort, and we've got some really dedicated people doing it. I'm very proud of them. And I told them that they can be very proud because they're creating a foundation and a recognition that our state stands for each other, and we're there in very difficult times. So we got good people. They're working really hard. They're running a great campaign, and we're going to run right up until election night at 8 o'clock and do everything we can do to make sure that Maine, you know, stands firm and is there for each other.
And a backup plan?
I think the way I approach this, Rachel, is that we conduct the campaign well. We've been able to get a lot of information and education out to people about a very difficult issue for some people, an emotional issue for some people to grapple with. So I think we've made a lot of inroads. So I think whatever the results are, I'm very pleased of the efforts and the abilities of a lot of people to be able to look inside themselves and realize that it's only an issue of fairness. It's an issue of equal protection. And in our state, you know, we depend upon each other to be there in a pinch, and I think Maine people will be there for each other on election night.
Maine Governor John Baldacci, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Rachel. We'll talk with you later.
Indeed.